Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to adjust the valves on my Rubicon. This procedure works for 14 and up Rancher 420s, Foreman 500s, Rubicons, and it's even very relevant to all the Rancher 420s. And the same procedure will pretty much help you adjust the valves on any 2-valve Honda. I'm also going to show you how I pull the plastics off and put them back on. People have a hard time with that. And this same procedure is useful if you're going to do a top end. This will get you, all the way down to the motor. So this video could be helpful for a lot of different maintenance items. Yeah, if you like the video, subscribe, and as usual, here's all the questions you're going to message me about, so read what's on the screen right now and take a screenshot so you don't have to ask me questions I've already answered a million times. Thanks. All right, several of you guys have asked, so I'm going to try to help you out. We're going to do the valve adjustment on this thing, and it's first oil change. So everyone knows how to do an oil change. I'm not going to video that. Obviously use Honda oil, Honda filter, or if you're me, you use Rotella 1540. And other things, I ordered the front bumper for it off of the old style 2015 through 2019 Rubicon, because this bumper is obnoxious. It already broke, and it's going to crack a back window eventually. So I ordered the bumper and this front grille because I just hate this grille. Looks stupid. So that'll come in a couple days probably, but let's do the valve adjustment. So it's pretty easy on this machine. It's not as easy as like a Honda 300 because on the Honda 300 the gas tank's pretty easy to get off. This gas tank is not super straightforward, so I will give you my my tips and tricks. So there's how you get the plastic off, and this plastic comes off super easy. If you've ever worked on the old air-cooled 500s, you will appreciate these plastics. They go on pretty easy too, despite what some people cry about and stuff. So that's the plastics, and now you got to pull all this stuff off, your computer and the relays and all that stuff, so you can get to the fuel tank. So pretty straightforward. You don't really need any tools to do this. You just kind of go underneath with your fingers and push in the tab. So I just kind of went underneath there and pushed those in to pop that off. It's the same with all these. You just do it without any tools. Just use your fingers. This is your fuel pump. Again, use your fingers, pop that off. Da-da-da. Get that laying out of the way. There's a little connector right here on the top of your fuel tank. That's your fuel pump relay or fuel pump harness, and the computer just snaps out like that. Couldn't be much easier. Nothing to complain about there. Now you need a 10 millimeter. All right, little 1/4 inch DeWalt, 10 millimeter, and driver. So there's just one little 10 holding this in here. As you can see, mine was buried in sand. Great spot to put all the bolts you take out is either in here or in here. I'll put it in there because all the Rubicons have one of those. So once you get that little guy out, you can go under here, undo your spark plug, and also go under here and undo your coolant temperature sensor. It's a little tighter on this guy. Probably because it's already full of mud. Not too bad. Okay, then you just yank this up. It snaps out of those rubber grommets, and then this just folds out of the way. Grab your tip sensor, fold that out of the way. And as you can see, this hose is kind of in the way on mine. You won't have this hose because you won't have done this, but I'm just going to tuck this out of the way back here because I do need to get to the valve inspection port right there. So you could adjust your intake valve really easily without pulling the gas tank. You can almost get in here and do the exhaust valve, but if you want to do it properly, you get everything out of your way so you're not fighting with it. You can get a good feel on the feeler gauge, and you can get a good adjustment. So to unhook this fuel line, first thing you do is you pull this little piece of rubber down out of the way, push in on the fuel line, squeeze the rubber, and boom, a little quick connect. That couldn't be easier. Everything on Hondas is just so well thought out. And then unhook your gas tank breather. And be careful not to break the nipple on your fuel pump, because then you'll have to replace your fuel pump. People do it all the time, so don't just yank on it and break it. Use a flat blade screwdriver, something like that I'm doing right here, to kind of push it off. These things fit on here pretty tight. Okay, got that off. Had it zip tied there, pull that out. Stick this in an obvious place where you won't forget to hook it back up, otherwise you will have major issues. Okay, so now we gotta get the gas tank off. This is probably the hardest part of the job. A pair of these pliers for these little snaps really helps. So pull off your gas cap and pull off these little guys. Now to do this 100% the right way and not have to fight anything, you should pull the front rack. I don't feel like doing that because I'm pulling the front rack in a couple of days to change the bumper anyways, and I don't want to do it right now. So I'm going to show you the lazy way. So you take out these 4 snaps, you undo your cigarette lighter. There's a connector right here. You can see it, your finger in there. Okay. And you're just going to kind of fold this up out of the way. Yeah, you're bending it a little bit, but it'll be fine. It'll come back to where you had it before. And as soon as you get this up out of the way, put your gas cap back on to keep any contamination from falling in the gas tank. Now you need a Torx. I think it's a 30. Yep. So a Torx, 30 Torx, long wobble extension. We'll use our same 1/4 inch brushless DeWalt lithium whatever impact, and zip off these little guys. So it holds the front of your gas tank. Just kind of bend the plastic up out of the way and zip these off. A lot of times when I go back in, I replace these with 10mm bolts, and the reason for that is they're easy to get on. These are kind of a pain in the ass, and if you need to take your gas tank off on a ride for whatever reason, it's a better chance you're going to have a 10mm than you're going to have a 30 Torx, especially if you're a Honda guy. If you're a Polaris guy, you probably get every Torx ever because Polaris likes Torx. Okay, so you're almost got the gas tank off. There's one more mount. There's a 10mm on this side. Just undo it from here. That's your little strap. Undo that one. Now we're ready to pull the gas tank. So as you can see, that took all of like 5 minutes because I've done it before. But if you haven't, it could fight you. So just lift up on the gas tank, yank it out. There's that goofy ass shaped gas tank that I wish was a little bigger. Now we got to remove this piece of plastic right here to gain complete access to everything we need. It's just a matter of a few plastic snaps. One down here. One up here. And I think that might be it. So you just kind of start working it around. You have to slide it back a little bit and pull it out from under here. It's one of those ones where it comes out pretty easy. You have to fight it a little bit going back in. Okay, and that's it. So that's your gas tank heat shield thingy. And now we have full access to the engine. So for 2020, the header's a little bigger. That's probably the only difference you'll notice here. And those are your inspection caps to do your valve adjustment. If you need to do a top end on your bike, you're almost there. This was half the work to do the top end. The top ends on these bikes are insanely easy. I'll be rebuilding that one in a couple days. It's been sunk a few times. So before you pull off your inspection ports, mine are very clean, but you should hit them with some carburetor cleaner and some compressed air to make sure no contamination gets in there. The ports are a 24, I think, most likely. So you just pop off these little guys. When you put these back on, be sure not to over torque them. People do it all the time. They crack really easy. It's just a thin aluminum. Okay. Okay, get those ports off, and now you can see the top of your valves. So it's not, it's not all easy now. So you got the valves, you can adjust them, but now you got to make sure it's on top dead center, and that can be kind of a pain in the butt. So the reason I pull the ports off first is because I don't do this the exact same way everyone else does. You got to be careful not to dump any dirt in your engine now that it's open, by the way. So that little plug down there, that's your inspection port. So if you look in there, there's a mark that will tell you when you're at TDC. The proper way to turn this engine over is to pull off the plate, which is like the pull start block off plate, and go in there with a 17mm on the back of the crankshaft where the magneto is, and turn the crank over with a ratchet. But that's kind of hard to get to, and we do things the lazy way. So I'll show you my way. You pull that off. Now we can see the side of the magneto where the marking is for top dead center. So I got a flashlight. You can look in there. It's nowhere near it right now. So how do you know when you're on TDC? Well, there's a couple ways. You know, you can sit back there and turn it real slow and look at it and take forever and yada yada yada. I'm not going to show you that way because it's a pain in the butt, and not many people actually do it that way. Maybe if you're really bored at the dealer and you're getting paid by the hour, but that's not how we do things around here. So let me pull out the spark plug. So never use an impact on your spark plug or your drain plugs unless you're me. Yeah. So there's a spark plug. It's a slightly different looking spark plug than my old one. BKR5E11. Looks like it's running perfect. Obviously it's fuel injected and it's brand new. Spark plug's good to go back in. So I like to stick something soft down in there. And by soft, I mean like something that's not going to scratch the piston or the cylinder wall. So like if you have something like this, like a shish kebab stick, that seems to be about as good as it gets. Okay, so stick that down in there. Oh, piston's almost all the way at the top already. But it's probably, yeah, on the wrong stroke. So put it in first gear. Okay, first gear. We'll actually go up to like 5th gear to make it easier on ourselves. All right, 5th gear. And you just kind of rock the bike forward. And that's gonna turn the cylinder over. And you can see the stick's almost at the top now. So check our valves. They should be loose when you're at TDC, right? So it's gonna rock the bike forward again. Probably getting close. So that one's loose and that one's loose. So let's see how close we got to TDC using the old stick in the spark plug hole trick. Come over here, look in our port. Don't quite see TDC yet, so I'm just gonna sit here and hold the tire very gently, bounce it until you see the T. So there you go, TDC. So you know you're on TDC when the T lines up and both the valves have a little bit of slack in them. If one valve's tight or both valves are tight, go around again. Okay, so TDC. You need to be at TDC to adjust the valves because you need to have the right clearance. So now that we're at TDC, we're ready to adjust the valves. And I can tell you by feeling them, they feel pretty damn close. So we don't have a whole lot of adjusting to do. So here is some feeler gauges. That's what you use to adjust valves. You see how some of these are bent because I use them a lot. I think on this bike, so we got our trusty Honda manual here. This is actually for a 420 Rancher. I need to get one for the 2020. These manuals are cheap and nice to have. You really should always have these manuals so you don't have to bug me and ask me stupid questions. So I was wrong. The valve spec is different for the intake and exhaust on this bike, which is kind of how it felt. The exhaust felt looser. So you're looking at 6 thousandths for the intake and 9 thousandths for the exhaust. I should remember that I've done enough of these, but I didn't. So just always consult the manual. This will tell you everything I just taught you. It won't tell you to turn the engine over the same way. It tells you to remove the pull start cover. But we did it the sneaky way without the inconvenience of having to mess with that. So yeah, so 6 thousandths on the intake and 9 thousandths on the exhaust. Okay, so get our feeler gauges ready. I'm probably gonna do all this and it's gonna be adjusted perfect, but guess what? Now I'll know. A lot of people do not adjust the valves on these bikes ever, or they don't do it when they should, and that is very sad to buy a brand new machine and not do a very simple, easy step of maintenance like this, because it's just dumb. Under the intake valve, between the tappet and the valve, and you should feel just a little bit of resistance. And you got to hold it down where it's straight. If you have it at an angle, you're always going to feel resistance, right? So it is a hair loose. We're going to go ahead and adjust it. Because I like my motors to be adjusted perfect and have no tap, tap, tap going on.
You hear a lot of engines, a lot of Hondas. Everyone says, oh yeah, Hondas just have bad valve noise kind of inherently. It's not necessarily true. It's that Hondas are reliable enough that people neglect them and don't really adjust the valves. And eventually they have valve problems and have valve noise. But the valve noise rarely manifests in any running problems, so no one ever does anything about it. Can't tighten it back down with a socket because you have to keep your wrench on it. So break that nut loose, back it off a little bit. And the way to do this is just kind of feel it, snug it, just feel a little bit of resistance, and then check it. Oh, that's perfect. You can hear the dragging, listen. That's what it sounds like when it's adjusted properly. So now you hold that tappet in place exactly with the screwdriver. You come in here and you tighten your nut down. So tighten all the way down with your finger first. Get the wrench on there. It's actually kind of awkward to get a wrench on this guy. And after you get it tightened, you check it again. And listen. That's what you want to hear when it's adjusted right. So that's the intake valve, right? And how can you tell the intake from the exhaust valve? Well, it's pretty simple. Intake valve's close to the intake, exhaust valve's close to the exhaust. It's not the same on every machine like that. That is how it is on this one. So Rubicon or most 2-valve Hondas, it's very simple. Oh, it feels like the exhaust valve is a little tight. So it is good we did this. I mean, they were both fine, but exhaust valve was a hair tight and intake valve was a hair loose. This is a standard break-in procedure on pretty much every engine ever. Every Honda, ATV, whatever, even the Talon. So just go in here and adjust your valves. It's so easy on these. There's no reason to skip this step. A lot of people skip it on like the 450 because you need a lot of special tools and stuff. And you need a shim kit. So people skip it on that. And I can kind of see that because it's a pain in the ass, but you should always do it. Okay, just go to you feel a little resistance. Boom. And make sure you did the right one, 9/1000ths, take it out, put it in again. Yep, feels good. Tighten that puppy back down. I'm sure there's a torque spec for that. My spec is good and tight. So that's it, the valves are adjusted. Now we're just gonna do the reverse of everything we just did and put it all back together. And it's really that easy.
I like to put a drop of oil on my spark plug threads. A great place to get oil from is the engine oil. We just stick out a little drop right there, and drop, drop. Something I always do. If you hydraulic the bike, you gotta take the spark plug out on the side of the trail. You will appreciate that those threads are oiled, trust me. So put these in here. There's really way too big of a ratchet to be tightening down from this fragile with, so just go real gentle. Just look at it, when that gap closes up, you compress the O-ring. It's pretty much tight enough. Do not over tighten as I go crazy with it. You'll be angry. Tighten our spark plug down with an impact, because that's how we roll. Better than using a pipe wrench like that one crazy YouTube dude. Okay, that's good. Now we must reinstall our inspection port cover, which is this little guy. If I could find out what I did with my Allen driver, that'd be great. This one's important to start by hand anyways, because they actually cross it kind of easy. What did I do with my Allen driver? Did it end up in here? No. Did I already put it away? No. Huh. That's the thing about most jobs. You spend half your time looking for tools, especially if you're talking to the camera while you're doing the job. So I couldn't find my Allen socket, but Torx makes a great Allen driver, by the way. Okay, so that's done. Everything's sealed. There it is. It's all underneath the rack. So, of course, after you use the wrong tool, the other tool shall appear. So, we got everything sealed back up. The four things we took out to open up the engine was these two inspection ports, the spark plug to find TEC, and the port down there to verify we have found TEC. So now we put everything back in reverse order. Okay, we're looking for your roll angle sensor. That's it right there. So drop this little guy in. It kind of snaps in place, and then you gotta kind of finagle it underneath this black piece of plastic. Get it started in a few spots, and you slide it forward. Like I said, this is kind of a pain in the butt. Slide into that latch. There you go. Not too bad. And you know when you got in the right spot because your pins will line up. And this black piece in here actually comes on top, which is kind of weird. It helps to have a flat-blade screwdriver to pop it in front of it. Don't tear your fingers. So check, make sure you get all those slotted properly. It's kind of like a cable tray that holds your cables on the other side, so it's kind of important. Not super big deal, but... Okay, and put your plastic snaps back in. 1, 2. Make sure that's sitting straight, because the way the gas tank actually does kind of sit on these rubber things right here. So it's important to get all this lined up right, all the cables and stuff that are routed through here, vent lines and whatnot. Alright, that looks good. We're going to take this opportunity to lube up our bushing on the steering stem, because I like to leave these things with some silicone Teflon spray once in a while. Get that down there, go turn. Then you will start squeaking if you don't lube them. Alright, grab your gas tank. This thing is very empty. It's a miracle it's going to run the gas on there. Slide it up under here on this black thing. Now there's a trick right here. I'll take it back out to show you. There's this little piece of here that's hinged. You gotta make sure this is split down. I don't know why it's really hinged. It's like, so you can undo the back screw and tilt the gas tank up or something. I don't know. But make sure it's tilted down, and when you put the gas tank in, you get the grommets on top of it. And it wants to kick it up. But if you pay attention, you know what you're looking for. Easily can be done. So then you line up this back hole, put your 10mm in there. That will help you line up the other holes, which are these stupid torques. So like I said, we're gonna replace these two stupid torques with 10mm because it's just a more accessible tool for when I need to do this on the side of the trail, inevitably. When I sink my bike and get water in the gas tank or whatever, right? Always make it to where it's easier to work on. So replace those two screws with some 10s. Drop them in here. 10s are just easier, they're easy to socket on, etc., etc. Yeah, I can move the gas tank around a little bit, get them started by hand. There's a lot of play in this back one, but make sure you don't cross-thread them, right? Because this is a hard spot to get to. You'd be mad if you cross-threaded that. Alright, let's start it by hand. Let's switch over to our 10mm. Tighten this guy down. Make sure the gas tank's sitting happily. This one, the stupid flange, it's like, I don't even know what it is. It's like a safety cable or something, I suppose. Yeah. I leave them off sometimes, but we'll put it back on. If that bushing fails, your gas tank doesn't fly off. Little safety wire thing. Whatever. We'll go back to our extension. We need a 3/8 or 10mm now. Sneak in here. Hit that one. Hit that one. Take off our gas cap. Put the fender back. The cowling back over it. Part of the fender, I guess. This little guy popped off again. I yanked it off when I first got it and glued it back down. And did a very good job. You glue it back on. No big deal there. Okay, and now we're going to plug our cigarette lighter back in. This is called, we call it cigarette lighter, I don't use it anymore. It's 12-volt accessory port. Okay, and then 12-volt plastic snaps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And now we'll come back around the other side and hook everything back to our gas tank. So, route that back to the zip tie. Gas tank breather is hooked up. Now we can start installing all this. So you kind of flip this back down in place. See how these wires are routed, follow that same scheme. So this is your coolant temperature sensor. Camera's getting hot, hold on for several minutes. Coolant temperature sensor. It's routed the exact same way Honda had it. People try to reroute wires around smart ways all the time and end up having wire harness issues because guess what? You're not as smart as Honda. And hook up coolant temperature sensor. And then move this back into place. Put my crazy crankcase breather set up back the way it was. Hook up your fuel line at this point. I have my breather over it. So pull it back through. Try to get gas in your mouth or your eye. That rotates pretty easily. It has this little nice thing it snaps down into in this heat shield. Line this up. Now this time you just push it on. And then you bring the rubber piece back up, right center. Hook up your spark plug if you want your engine to run those. Check make sure all that's sitting pretty square. Put this into these two grommets. Put that down. Alright, that looks pretty good. We're going to bolt on our little tray now. Like so. And now just put these wires in the computer with them. ECU just snaps into place. You can read the wires, make a memory of them, and figure out where all these little guys go. They'll just snap into place. Easy as can be. Plug in your fuel pump. Make sure that's all lined up good.
And that's it. Your valves are done. I'll show you how I put the cowl on too, because apparently this thing's a conundrum for some people. Put the engine cowl over the engine. Careful not to get it hooked on either the shifter or the brake pedal. Okay, and then there's two pieces of plastic, red plastic, that have to slide to the footwell on each side. So you get one side started, walk around to the other side of the bike, place your hand up here to keep the other side from coming out. Get this side started. Okay, now that they're both started, it's in the approximate right spot. Walk back around to this side of the bike, quad, whatever, line up this little top pin in its grommet, and then you have to take 2 fingers back here to pop that grommet in, pop the back grommet in, and there's a grommet back here. You can stick your hand in and actually feel it and line it up so you don't push the grommet out and snap. There, it's in. Now this side I do it last because there's a snorkel over here, so it's a little trickier. So push the bottom one in, line up this top grommet, same way as the other side. snap, put your fingers under here, snap, snap. And now this is the hard one because of the snorkel, right? Because you got to kind of stretch it over the snorkel. So I kind of push down and forward, boom, snap. So it's really not that bad. As you can see, these plastics don't fit quite right anymore because everything's shifted back from running into trees. But it fit okay. It used to fit better before I, you know, hit so many trees. And if you don't have a snorkeled bike, it's even easier. Because the snorkel always ends up hitting the pipe right there, no matter how perfect you route it. But that's on there pretty good. I'm gonna glue the little piece that I broke off again, back down. Some ultra black. These tubes are always clogged. Keep a screwdriver right there just for the purpose of boring out the goo that gets in there inevitably. I'll put some more glue this time, maybe it'll stay on longer. Okay. Put a weight on that or something so it will hold down a little bit. And that is it, folks. That is all you got to do the valves on this bike. If you can't do that yourself, take it to the dealership and get screwed. They will charge you an arm and a leg to do a valve job, and it is not a bad job on these machines. So just do it yourself, save yourself the money, and learn something about your bike. This is something pretty much everyone can do. The only special tools required are the feeler gauges, and a set of feeler gauges is ridiculously cheap at Harbor Freight. So you should have everything in a standard toolkit to do this job, except for maybe the Torx. Although most standard toolkits will have that as well. As usual, organization is key. If you want to be able to do anything efficiently in life, get fucking organized. And put your tools up between each job. It'll make the next job go faster. It's not a waste of time. If you notice, I have the trail tires on the Rubicon, so we're gonna ride some trails this weekend up in Georgia. Make sure you don't have any extra parts, and then put the seat on. Done. Valves adjusted. That's all there is to it.